Hello everybody, day 2 of my build a new bench video, and I keep still insisting that I play ball rather than crack on with the job, but never mind, we'll persevere. I won't put it in my hand no matter what I say. Coops, kiss the ball. Alright, don't then. So what I'm doing at the moment is, these are the long pieces that will join the two sets of legs together, and I'm simply the reason I'm doing that, and I don't remember if I said this yesterday, I might have done, but it's worth repeating. When you're working with two pieces of wood like this, especially if you're doing just this sort of woodwork, if you drill your hole through your first board so the screw can screw freely, it will obviously slot straight through, and then it will start biting into this piece, and rather than sometimes, if they're biting into this first piece because you haven't pre-drilled, they can sometimes push that piece slightly away, and then you'll get to your head to this end all the way down and you'll still have a slight gap, whereas with the pre-drilled hole it'll pull it tight, really pull it in tight, and squidge that glue in, give you a good tight joint. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so here's the setup for the next stage of the build. I'm hopefully going to be able to fix this piece like so. Obviously the whole thing's lying on its side, then flip it over, do the other side, and then attach the central support, and I'll be ready to have the top fixed. So let's see if it's going to be as easy as I would hope. Okay, so it's kind of set into place. The second bar that I just put in place is making sure that the legs are square where I want them. So now it's just going to be a question of gluing and screwing, flipping it over, repeating the process. Farmers in the field doing something with the cattle, making a racket. She's setting Coop off barking, so apologies for that. Okay, so a generous dollop of wood glue. Wood glue comes in a couple of flavours, one that's sort of general purpose but mostly for indoors, and what obviously I'm using for this project is the exterior grade weatherproof wood glue. Okay, so that's that end secured. Just need to repeat the process at the other end, and job will be done for this bit. Big old dollop of glue. Make sure everything's straight and aligned as I can make it. Okay, so that's this side done. Need to flip it over and do the other side now. Okay, so that's the two top pieces in place. They not only of course hold the legs on, but they also provide the platform to screw the top slats. So next thing I need to do is secure in place this center board that's going to stop the legs from splaying outwards. So there's my little mark, and the board is approximately central, as near as darn it, you wouldn't be able to see with the naked eye if I'm a millimetre or two off one way or another. So get me glue, me screws, fix that into place. Big old dollop of glue. And make sure I get right back nice and central to that mark. A bit of a slide backwards and forwards, get the glue seated down underneath. So that's the last screw in, and we'll move out and have a proper look at it. Okay, so onto the top. As I said before, these boards are 240 millimeters, 2,400 millimeters, 240 centimeters, so I can get 4 60 centimeter boards out of each one. That's about the only bit of mathematics that works out into this project, really. So I've got my tape measure and I'm measuring up 60 millimeters, 60 centimeters. I'm trying to be all modern. I was raised feet and inches, and that still trips off my brain. Much easier than trying to work in centimeters, but never mind. You get the gist. So I'm going to cut my first board. I can measure each board, cut each board, but it's much easier if I use the first pre-measured board. Make sure the ends line up perfectly, and I can now use this board, which I'm going to mark board A, to measure out my next cut, which will be approximately there, a little bit more. Okay, so those two boards will be exactly the same length. And the proof of the pudding is, et voila, two boards exactly the same length. Technically the second board is going to be always going to be slightly larger than the first one, so the trick is to put the second board to one side and always use the board you've marked. Otherwise, like a photocopy, you'll get a bit of degradation with each length you measure. Okay, about to make the final cut on this project. Just to reiterate, always been using board A to make my measurement. Blade is actually coming down to just touch. So what I will end up with is 20 boards, the exact length of this one. But what I have now is all of these boards are the same length, and will look reasonably neat and tidy at the end of the day. A little bit rustic, but yeah, better than all wibbly. So there's the whole thing. One of the considerations when I was making this was that it was going to stand out on the lawn, and so therefore I've made space underneath where I'll be able to get the lawnmower in from both sides, keep the grass tidy underneath, which will be nice. Always likes to look it always looks its best when things are neat and tidy. So obviously I now need to put the tops on. There is a little bit of wobbliness inherent in this at the moment, and part of my design is these overlaps, and essentially this shape will fit under that board, which once fixed into place will ensure that a lot more rigidity in this joint. So what I need now is to ensure that the gaps I have are all equal, front and back. I want it to look, don't want to, overhangs and you end up with it sort of uneven and untidy looking. So going to cut myself a piece of wood that is 10 centimeters long, just a piece of scrap wood, and that will give me a little marker, and then all the edges should be the same. So if you watched part 1, you'll know that when I was constructing this and I did my maths, I said this end was going to be exactly, I cut this piece so it would be exactly 40 centimeters, and well, it's not. It's only 39 centimeters. So I obviously made a mistake in my measurements somewhere, but it's good that I picked that up now. I've no idea whether it's the same at the other end, better check that. Yes, it is. Yes, it's exactly 39 at the other end, so at least I made the same mistake twice, making it not a mistake. So now these are, I'm just going to double check that now, because 60. I'm going to go with an overhang of 10.5 centimeters in that case. As you can see, I'm wobbling this, it's still a little bit wobbly. However, once these end boards go in place, they will cause these S pieces, they'll be screwed in to all these points, which will lock this into a much more rigid structure. So I'm going to cut myself a sort of template board out of an old scrap piece of wood at 10.5 centimeters. Okay, so going to line the sides up with the edge of the legs like so, and then I've got my block of wood cut to 10.5 centimeters, and simply hold that against the board at the base, and so long as that is at that and that is at that, then I should be in the right place. Okay, so now I know I'm roughly in position. I'm gonna put a dollop of glue all the way along around that corner onto the top of the legs, and back, give it a bit of a slide, make sure it's exactly in contact, and then just double check my edge is right, which it isn't, so Oh no, that side is 10.5 centimeters, so that side should be 10.5 centimeters also, which it is. Brilliant. Okay, so obviously I'm not just going to glue that, I'm going to drill it as well. That's made that much more sturdy. So now I simply have to do the same at the other end, then fill in all the gaps. Okay, so another bit of math seems to be working out. That's exactly 18 boards with, I wouldn't say exact gaps in between. At this point I've just laid them out roughly. I'm going to move the thing into position on the lawn before I put the rest of the top on, because it'll be lighter and therefore easier to move. And but before I do that, I'm going to pre-drill all of these slats. So taking my little cut off piece of wood, I can measure 10.5 centimeters in and drill a hole, thusly. But I'm not just going to do that, I can actually do 2 or 3 at a time. As long as I've got the ends lined up and I drill straight, I should be able to just drill so I'm going to do all the rest in exactly the same way. All the trees have come off this bench now. As you can see, it is very wobbly. The top itself is pretty sturdy. And if we turn around slightly and look across the pond to that bench over there, I have exactly the opposite problem. The posts are fine, they're set into the metal brackets into the ground, but the top is falling apart. So I'm basically going to take the top off of this and slot it onto that, but I'm going to have to get someone to help me with that. But yeah, that's the plan. This will become the new top, and then we'll clear these away. Okay, so with very little argument, both these posts have snapped off below soil level, which is really nice. It means I don't need to do anything else. Just let the little hole above seal up and run the mower over whenever I need to. So now let's get the new bench into place. Checking it with the spirit level, it wasn't entirely level, largely due to the fact that the whole garden slopes down away from the house. So I've actually put a couple of pieces of broken roof tile under the back legs, or these legs, which has raised it up to nearest darn it level. Good enough. A little bit of a slope will help water run off, instead of just sitting on top of this timber. So although it's pressure treated, a bit of runoff is always good. So time for the finishing touches. I'm not going to glue these boards onto the top. If the boards start to rot, these are going to be easily replaced if I don't glue them. So they're just going to be held on top with one screw on each side of the frame, and as before, I've got my 10.5 centimeter block here, which I will line them up with, and also I will use the same block to achieve a consistent gap. Just double check. Double check, double check. It saves time and embarrassment later. Okay, so should be. So that's that one. Okay, save that for the blooper reel. Okay, so consistent gap. Now you could just go along. What you might find is that your gap at the end is way out. So the thing to do is always to work both ends to the middle, as it were. So 10.5 centimeters lines up to there, gap, like so. Double check. Move the block, squeeze it up, and then, as I say, this one, so there we have that jobbed, as it were. So looking down the side, I need to take a few of these tags off, which spoil the view of it a little bit, but it's looking nice and straight, nice and flat. No longer looks like it's going to fall over like the other one did. I've got double the space practically to put more trees on here, or to have the same amount of trees on here, not squished up, which is a good thing. So that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, a little bit out of the ordinary. All in that, probably 3 or 4 hours work, and I've got a nice sturdy little bench that'll work hard holding my trees up for years to come. And thank you all for watching. Watch out for a picture on Instagram and Twitter of the bench filled with trees soon. In the meantime, please do take care of yourselves. Stay safe.